Parsha Ki Tavo is a very troubling parsha. It begins well enough, but then things go south pretty quickly. We start off with the Bikkurim. And if we'll read, the Bikkurim, are the first fruits that were brought to the Beit HaMikdash and presented by the altar, and were given as a thanksgiving to Hashem. Right? Now, if we'll start, right, when you enter the land, are you given terrors, and we bring these first fruits, oh, good morning, Brana. And then we lay the basket by the altar, and you make a declaration. What is the declaration? Someone take for us, please, in Hebrew, from Pasuk Hey, the 5th Pasuk. V'anita v'amarta.
וענית ואמרת לפני הקדוש ברוך הוא אליך, עממי עובד אבי, וירד מצרימה, ויגר שם במתי מעט, ויהי לו לדי גדול עצום ורב.
Continue.
וירא אותנו המצרים, ויענונו, ויתנו עלינו עבודה קשה.
Now this should sound very familiar to us. Haggadah Shel Pesach. Right? This is what we're saying in the Haggadah Shel Pesach. We're taking these psukim and we are analyzing them and we're breaking them down. Why are we talking, right, on Pesach, why are we bringing the verses from the Bikkurim, the first fruits? I would think we would bring the verses from Shemot, from Exodus. That's what would make sense. Why are we bringing these verses? And let's hear in English what we're saying. So in English, please, from verse 5. In the middle there, an Aramean tried.
Oh, what page is that?
I'm sorry, page 1069.
Then you shall call out and say before Hashem your God, an Aramean tried to destroy my forefather. He descended to Egypt and sojourned there, few in number, and there he became a nation, great, strong, and numerous.
Continue.
The Egyptians mistreated us and afflicted us and placed hard work upon us. Then we cried out to Hashem, the God of our forefathers, and Hashem heard our voices and saw our affliction, our travail, and our oppression.
Continue.
Hashem took us out of Egypt with a strong hand and with an outstretched arm, with great awesomeness and with signs and with wonders. He brought us to this place and he gave us this land, a land flowing with milk and honey.
And now behold.
I have brought the first fruit of the ground that you have given me, O Hashem, and you shall lay it before Hashem your God, and you shall prostrate yourself before Hashem your God.
Beautiful. And you shall rejoice with all the goodness that Hashem your God has given you in your household, you and the Levite and the proselyte who is in your midst. So why are we reading this on Passover? Why aren't we reading from Exodus on Passover? Why are we reading this on Passover?
Because we're exiting from Egypt and going to Yisroel.
I'm sorry?
We're exiting from Egypt and we're going to Israel.
Okay, good. If we were reading from Exodus, that's kind of like the unfinished story. Right? Very good. He took us out of Egypt, but that wasn't meant to be. That wasn't the end point. That wasn't where we needed to get to. That was a step along the way. And therefore, on Pesach, we are reading about the end point. He took us out of Egypt and he brought us, and these are the fruits of the land. We've reached that end point. The dream has been realized. And therefore, the key is the last pasuk. The samachta b'chol hatov. And you shall rejoice with all of the good asher natan lecha Hashem Elokecha, that God has given to you, uleveitecha, and to your household, ata v'halevi v'ager asher b'krebecha. And then don't just keep the blessings of what you have, but share those blessings with those who have less than you. To the Levite who doesn't have his own fields, his own lands, and to the ger and the proselyte who are in your midst. So the key here is v'samachta b'chol hatov. Yes, Tov.
So at Pesach, you can't just eat by yourself. You have to
Okay, nice. On Pesach, we begin the Seder saying, whoever's hungry, come and join us. Okay, the Parsha continues. And then we have the blessings and the cursings. And then we have on the bottom of 1075, if you will listen, Hashem will make you supreme over all the nations. All the blessings will come upon you and overtake you if you listen to the voice of Hashem your God. Blessed, I'm on 1077, verse 3. Blessed you be in the city, blessed in the field, blessed the fruit of your womb, the fruit of your ground, the fruit of your animals, the offspring of your cattle, blessed are your fruit basket, your kneading bowl, blessed are you when you come in, blessed shall you be when you go out. Baruch atah b'voecha, blessed are you when you come. Baruch atah v'tzidkecha, blessed are you when you go out. I always like to repeat my father, alav shalom, when we're living in Israel, and we come visit him with our 7 children, who were energetic young tykes. My father would say to us, as we were leaving, Baruch atah b'voecha, blessed are you when you come. Baruch atah b'tzeitecha, blessed are you when you leave. Right? But it's blessing, 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 blessing. Then, on the bottom, but if you will not hearken to the voice of Hashem your God, verse 15, right, that I commanded today, then all these curses will come upon you. Cursed in the city, cursed in the field, on and on and on and on. Right? I mean, the graphics here are frightening. You will marry a woman, verse 30, but another man will lie with her. You will build a house, you will not dwell in it. You will plant a vineyard, you will not redeem it. Your ox will be slaughtered before your eyes. We just hear all of this pain. That which is yours, and it will be taken away from you. And it goes on and on. The earth will be like copper, the heavens like copper, the earth like iron, right? And then it says an amazing thing at the end. Go to page 1080. And it says there, verse 47. Mem Zayin, 47. Why will all this happen to you? Tachat asher lo avadata et Hashem Elokecha v'simcha uvetuv levav. Why is it all happening? 47 in English. Because you did not serve Hashem your God amid gladness and goodness of heart, merov kol, when you had a tremendous amount of kol. Kol is everything. When you had it all. So again, compare this, v'samachta b'chol hatov. You should rejoice with all of the good. That's what we said at the beginning of the Parsha, by the Bikkurim. And the flip side of that is all of this harrowing description of events. Why? Because you didn't serve Hashem b'simcha uvetuv levav. Same words, right? Simcha and tov, right? And kol, right? Actually, back over there we had the 3 words. V'samachta b'chol hatov. You should rejoice with all of the good. Here, why is this coming? Because you did not serve Hashem b'simcha, with happiness, uvetuv levav, and with a good heart, merov kol, from the abundance of the kol, of the all, of the good that you had. Now, let's go a little bit further. Let's jump ahead, if we can, to next week's Parsha. Okay, page 1086. Just 1 second. Sorry, the very end of this of next week's Parsha, where Moshe is speaking, continuing on these topics. Page 1092. Someone take that for us in English, in Hebrew, please. Re'eh, pasuk tet vav. The paragraph there, verse 15 on 1092. Re'eh. Okay. In English, please. Cheryl, 15, C.
See, I have placed before you today the life and the good, and the death and the evil.
Okay, right. I've given before you today Chaim, Tov, life, good, Mavet, death, Ra, evil. Where do we have these words? What do these words remind us of? And this is from Rabbi David Foreman. What do these words remind you of? Chaim, Tov, Mavet, Ra.
Gan Eden?
Good. Gan Eden is where the Torah speaks about the Eitz Hada'at, Tov, V'Ra, and the Eitz, also the tree of knowledge of good and evil, and also of Chaim, right? There's the Eitz HaChaim, and the converse, of course, which is the tree of life, and Mavet, which is death. So, he argues that in order to understand this Tochacha, as it's called, the afflictions that will come our way, and the type of afflictions that are being discussed over here, we need to go back and understand, and get a better understanding of that event there in the Garden of Eden, of Eitz Hadat. So let's go back to Bereshit. Now, very often people make a mistake. What was the first commandment that was given to? What was the first commandment that was given to Adam and Chava?
Shall not eat it?
Hmm?
Well, that's not the first one. That's not the
Said
first
of
one.
every
You
tree
shall.
of the garden you may eat, freely eat, but of the tree of knowledge of good and bad.
Where are you? Give us the page.
It's 13, verse 16.
Okay.
Page 13.
13, verse 16. Good.
Oh, yeah, that's
Right? Vayikach Hashem Elokim et Adam. He placed him there, and he commanded him. Right? People mistakenly think the first command was not to eat from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. That's not the case. The first command was Mikol Eitz Hagan Achol Tochel. From all of the trees of the garden, Achol Tochel. Right? You eat. Right? We repeat that term. Achol Tochel. That's like my grandmother. Eat. Eat. Essen mein Kind. Essen mein Kind. Eat. Eat. However, Ume'etz hadat tov v'ra lo tochal mimena. But from that tree of knowledge of good and evil, you shall not eat from it. Now, clearly, without going too far off onto this, clearly, before they ate from the Eitz Hadat, they had knowledge. They knew good and bad, otherwise you couldn't command them. Right? You don't command your 6-year-old, don't do this. Right? They don't have the capacity, the 6-month-old, they don't have the capacity to understand it. And you're not going to hold them responsible for it. Clearly they had this understanding, but it's the Eitz Hada'at Tov Ra. Dat means an intimate knowledge. When the Torah discusses that Adam and Chava were together, it says that Adam knew his wife Chava. Adam knew Eve. Right? That's an experiential knowing. Right? That's how, right? How does a man experience a woman? How does a woman experience a man? Through intimacy. That's how they experience the other. So this is an experiential knowledge of good and bad, meaning that it becomes actually internalized, a part of you, as opposed to this outside draw, right? It is something that is inside of us. It's an inner struggle as opposed to an external struggle. So, but the first command was, from all the trees, eat, you shall eat. But from the Eitz Hadat, Tov and Ra, from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, don't eat from there. Ki biyom acholcha mimenu mot tamut. On the day that you eat from there, you will die. Now, is it true from all the trees you can eat? Is it true that you can eat from all the trees? He said from all the trees you can eat, but from this one you can't eat. So it's not all. How can he say from all the trees you can eat and then say, but not from that tree?
Yeah, you have to. Yeah.
You have a choice.
To see.
It's all but that one.
Right.
Right?
Like,
now,
do you see it half full? Do you see it half
okay. So the way we view the word all really depends on our focus. Right? A person can have the sense that, wow, this incredible garden, replete with all these different incredible trees. It's all mine except for that one. Wow. Incredible. The focus could be on the all, and the one that I can't have, or the one that I don't have, is in fact, not just in fact negligible, but in my mind, the way I view it, it's negligible. Or there also is that human nature where the one thing that one can't have, that all of a sudden is shining, that is eclipsing everything else, and you don't see anything else besides that. Right? That was, we say, well, we'll see in a second over here. What happens then? The Nachash approaches Chava on page 14. Okay? Let's take verse 1, Gimel Aleph. First in Hebrew and then in English. Miri, v'kavod, v'hanachash.
It's in the middle of the page.
והנחש היה ערום מכל חיית השדה אשר עשה אדוני אלוהים ויאמר אל האישה אף כי אמר אלוהים לא תאכלו מכל עץ הגן.
So what does he say? In English? Sani, now the serpent?
Now the serpent was cunning beyond any beast of the field that Hashem God had made. He said to the woman, did perhaps God say you shall not eat of any tree of the garden?
Okay. So he said, right, you shall not eat of any tree of the garden. What's the key word there? Kol. Right? Kol can mean all. Kol can mean any. Right? Says he's saying to her, did God say, right, that you can't eat from all of the trees, or did God say you can't eat from any of the trees? Okay? Once again, it all depends on the attitude, the perception, the eyes that a person has. Right? It could feel like I can't eat from any because I can't eat from all. We hear that, right? Often we feel that we can't eat from any, right, if I can't eat from all. Vatomer ha'ish el hanachash. And she said, no, mi pri eitz hagan nochel. No, we can eat from the fruits of the trees of the garden. Umi pri ha'etz asher betoch hagan, but the pri ha'etz that is in the midst, in the center of the garden, right? Now, was it geographically located in the center of the garden? I don't know. But certainly in her mind, that was the centerpiece of that garden. Why? Why does that become the centerpiece? Because you can't have it. Amar Elokim, lo tochlu mimenu, don't eat from it, and don't touch it, lest we will die. Now, let's backtrack a second. If God didn't want them to eat from it, why was it there?
It was a test.
Okay. It was a test. What's the test? What's the lesson of this test?
Listen to what Hashem says.
Okay, on one level, listen to what Hashem says. Let's take it a step further. What is the lesson?
Focus on the blessings.
Focus on the blessings. Good.
Share
Good.
your blessings.
Right? And to
Discipline and self-control.
discipline, self-control. Good. Oreach. I'm sorry? Control temptations. Good. Good.
Have a good attitude.
Good attitude, but I think also there's a concept of an oreach. Oreach is a guest. To recognize that this is my garden. Right? There's just some things that are off limits. Right? Certain things that are off limits. This is my garden. This is my world. Recognize that you are a guest here in this world. And therefore, right, you rent out your house, right? A couple of closets get locked. Right? That's not for the guests. The guests have free roam of the house. Right? Free roam of the house. But there are certain lines that are drawn, certain parameters. What happens? Pasuk Vav. Vatera ha'isha. The woman sees ki tov ha'etz lema'achal. It sure looked good to eat. Right? For the physical sense of taste. Now, this word tov, by the way, is probably the most common word, right, throughout this, so far in the Torah, in Bereshit. Right? God thought it was tov, 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 tov. Where's the first place the Torah says lo tov, not good? Lo tov hiyot adam levadam. It's not good for a person to be alone. That's the first time the Torah uses lo tov, not good. Hey, the Torah here is replete with tov, tov, tov. And what does she do? She takes from the fruit, and right, so it's good to eat. Tavihi le'einayim. That's the visual. There's the taste. There's the visual. Nechmara eitz lahaskil, there is the intellectual, the philosophical, that it will increase one's knowledge, appreciation. And she took from that, and she ate, and she gave it also to her husband to eat. Their eyes were opened up. They realized that they were naked. And what does God say to them? Right? Pasuk Yud Aleph. Who told you that you are naked? Hamin ha'etz asher tziviticha leviltiachol mimenu achalta. Was it from the tree that I commanded you not to eat that you did eat? Now, the Gemara often asks very interesting questions. when the Gemara is discussing the whole Purim miracle, it says, where's Esther in the Torah? Now that question hardly makes any sense at all at first glance. What do you mean? Esther was during the Babylonian Persian exile. Esther isn't found in the Torah, but the idea is, where is the essence of Esther in the Torah? Right? And the Gemara answers, Haster astir panai michem. God says there'll be a time when I will haster astir, Esther, astir. I will hide my face from you. Right? That's where the whole idea of Esther, that whole time period of Esther, is found in the Torah, that God is acting behind the scenes. What we call Hester Panim. His face is hidden, but he's still there. The Gemara asks, well, where's Haman? The arch enemy, Haman, the villain. Where is Haman mentioned in the Torah? This pasuk. Hamin ha'etz asher tziviticha. Was it from the tree that I commanded you, levilti achol mimenu, that you shall not eat from it? Achalta, have you eaten? What does Haman have to do with the tree? We're blaming Haman for the tree? What does Haman have to do with the tree?
Is it because of Mordechai? The one thing, he had everything.
Good. Haman had everything. He's second in command to Achashverosh.
And very wealthy.
Right?
Enough.
Wealth,
Kids
Wasn't
and
enough.
family, power,
respect and
honor.
right.
The whole nation, everyone is bowing down to him except
Mordechai.
one person doesn't bow down. And what does Haman say? The kol ze einenu shaveh li. All of this, the 99.9999999% that I have, eino shaveh li, is worth nothing to me. Why? Because Mordechai ha-Yehudi. Because there's this one person, Mordechai, the Jew, who doesn't bow down to me. So the 99.99999 is not good enough because I'm missing the 0.00001. But it's not that I'm missing 0.0001. I've got nothing because I don't have it all. That was the eitz. Hamin ha'etz. That's what the Nachash said to her. You can't eat from any of the trees. What do you mean you can't eat from any of the trees? No, she can't eat from all the trees. But she can eat from almost all the trees. No, you can't eat from any of the trees. Why? Because if you don't have it all, then you've got nothing at all. That is Haman min ha-Torah. Hamin ha'etz. That one tree that I commanded you, don't eat from it. From that you have eaten. Now, let's go back to where we began over here. What do we have over here? We had the end of Parshat Nitzavim. What page was that on? Right, page 1092. Re'ei natati lefanecha hayom. Verse 15, 1092, 1093. I've placed before you today et hachayim, the et hatov, the et hamavet, the et hara. I've placed before you today chayim, tov, mavet, and ra. That eitz hadat of tov and ra, that tree of the knowledge of good and evil, the challenge of that tree is not something that was just there back in the Garden of Eden. That is placed before you today. And as we were told over there, on the day that you eat from that, mot tamut. You will die on that day, but you will bring death upon yourself. You will become mortal. That choice is placed before us. Moshe says, see, I've placed before you today Chaim Tov and Mavet and Ra. The Eitz Hadat is there again for you. It's there for us. It's there every day of our life. And that is, what is our focus? In what world are we living? We have, going back to our Parsha, we have the Bikkurim, the first fruits. You've made it there to Israel. Nationally, we've entered the land, and we're planting, and we're there under our vineyards, we're there in our orchards. The land is blossoming, the land is blooming. We're receiving all of these gifts. And what must you do? V'samachta b'chol ha-tov. You must be happy with all of this tov. Samachta. Bakol. That's our key word here. Kol. Kol means all. Kol means any. It all depends how you're going to view things. B'chol ha-tov. All this good that Hashem has given to you. Just one other thing. Where is that Rashi? When it says Samachta, I'm not seeing the Rashi right now. Rashi says V'samachta and V'simachta. Right? You shall be happy and you shall make others happy. Now, let's go back now again to 1080 over here, where we said all of this happened tachat because asher lo avarta Hashem Elokecha b'simcha uvetuv leivav meirov kol. You didn't serve Hashem with simcha, with tov, meirov kol. Right? That's on 1080, verse 47. Right? When everything was abundant. And now let's look back again at the heartbreak of the type of Tochacha, of curses that come our way. What is the heartbreak? The heartbreak is you've courted a woman, right? You've had the first stage of marriage. Now, the first stage of marriage traditionally was a year before the second stage of marriage. So you've courted, you've reached the first stage of marriage, right? We do our marriages back to back. We do the two stages of marriage back to back. Our marriage is Hariyam Mekudeshet Li. That's the first stage of marriage. The second stage of marriage is the chuppah. The chuppah is the couple moving into the same house. Him bringing her into his house. The chuppah represents their house. It represents the house, of Avram and Sarah, open on all sides to allow for guests to come. But the chuppah represents the house. According to some opinions, according to Maimonides, after the chuppah they need to go. What do the couple do? At least Ashkenazi custom. What do the couple do after the chuppah? Yichud. They go to a secluded room. Why? Because not that they engage in intimacy there, right? Okay, so according to the Rambam, the chuppah, the home that he's bringing her into, must be yichud haroi lebiyah. It must be seclusion that could feasibly allow for intimacy, because that's the new stage that they are now reaching. After the first stage of marriage, they used to go back home for a year. Each one would go back to their respective homes for a year, And then a year later, they'd have the Nesuin, the Chuppah, which was entering into the home, and the Sheva Brachot. And actually, the way it used to work then was instead of paying the caterer all that money would go towards a home. And that's where the wedding would be, and that's where they would live afterwards. They would have a home. But the chuppah is bringing into the home. And only then would the couple be intimate with one another. Yavi, you mentioned that, that's correct, that the chuppah is a place that enables that intimacy, right? The whole wedding ceremony that we do is we are symbolically going through all of, you mentioned the feeding. They're symbolically going through all of the responsibilities of the husband to the wife. The ketubah, the marriage document, is all about the responsibilities of the husband to the wife. And symbolically at the wedding, we go through all those responsibilities. He has an obligation to clothe the wife. What does he do at the wedding? Ashkenazi custom again, not Svardic. The veil, the bedecking, right? He clothes her. He puts the veil, right? He has an obligation to house her. That's the chuppah. He brings her into the chuppah. He has an obligation to feed her. Now, traditionally, the groom and bride fast on their wedding day. For them, it is like a Yom Kippur. It is a fresh slate. It is a complete new start. Where do they break their fast? Well, they go into the yichud room, and there he gives her to eat, right? He feeds her. And, of course, in the yichud room, they don't engage in intimacy, but it's an environment that enables intimacy. That's another obligation of husband to wife and wife to husband in a marriage. So over here, they've gone through the first stage of marriage, but what's going to happen? Someone else is then going to take her. So after all that you've put into it, right, you're not going to complete that marriage. All that you've put into the vineyard, someone else is going to harvest it. You raise the ox, someone else is going to slaughter it. Why is it specifically these heartbreak situations?
To make you choose something good and not bad.
I'm sorry?
To make you choose.
Yes, but why? Yes, but why specifically these heartbreak situations? Good, right, Cheryl?
Because we had all these things in the first place, but we weren't happy with them.
Okay,
So you really
right? It's sort of hitting the nail on the head. If you don't fully appreciate the things that you have, the only way to appreciate it is if it will be taken away. Right? Tragically, and it's something that I think every human being, we all struggle with, right? It's very easy to get used to something. And then it's mine. And then I take it for granted. I only appreciate it once I no longer have it. The Tochacha is the flip side of the Bikkurim. The Bikkurim was the Samachta, rejoice, B'chol Hatov, Asher Natan Lecha Hashem Elokecha, that God has given to you and to your household. And I've mentioned often that we were born into an amazing world for Jews that is really the exception. It's truly the exception to the long haul of Jewish history. My neighbors, when I lived in Israel, Aleim Hashalom, were Adon and Gveret Shvimer, the Shvimers. Remember when Natalie and I came in, we made Aliyah, came to Israel. Gveret Shvimer came down, welcoming us, gave us some petel, which is the Israeli syrup they mix with water to make some sort of a juice. And sorry?
You give it to
Yeah,
kids, so
petal actually means raspberry, but that's the term we use for all these different syrups that you mix into the water to make it good and sugary and unhealthy. Right? Nowadays we're not so into that anymore, but then that was the rage, right? And cake, and we got to know the Shvimmers, and we got to know them very well. The Shvimmers were both survivors. Mrs. Shvimmer had been a teenager in Auschwitz. And Mengele, Yamach Shemo, had wanted to see what would the effect of a dog bite on a human be when it's untreated. So he had Gveret Shvimer bitten by the dogs. And what she did, she told us, was that she managed to get some cloth, like sheet material, and she managed to boil it, and she would wrap herself, so she took care of herself. When another young couple moved in, and they had a dog, and Gveret Shvimer went nuts, I told them, sorry, no dogs in this building. No dogs with Gveret Shvimer is here. Her husband had been married and lost his wife and children. They met after the war. They moved to Israel in 1945, 6, before the establishment of the state. She always say to me, Adon Yisrael. So she called me, my master, Yisrael, right? Adon Yisrael. Ha'aliyah shelanu lo haya k'mo aliyah shelcha. Our aliyah to Israel wasn't like your aliyah. Our aliyah, we had rights to buy a car, we had this, we had subsidies, we had rent subsidies. We moved to Israel, our rent for the apartment, a 2-bedroom apartment then, this is the early 1980s, was $150 a month. Our rent subsidies were $140 a month. $10 for rent, that works, right? She said, our aliyah was not like your aliyah. Right? They were sent out to work. Literally, she tells about draining the swamps. Literally draining the swamps. And then fighting in the war of independence. They had 2 children, a son and a daughter, and the son died. I never got clear. I never had the heart to ask more. Whatever they share with me, they share. But around the 6-day war, I don't think it was in battle though. Son might have gotten sick and died. And these were people who, I remember visiting him. His wife wasn't well already. He was reaching his end. And he said to me, Adon Yisrael, Mani agid lecha. What can I tell you? Hashem beirachoti. God has blessed me so much. Kol kacha bebrachot. Hashem natan li. God has given me so many blessings. Wow. What do you do with that? What do you do with that? That's the bracha. And we look at the way, our lives, the time that we were born into, with our wealth, with our freedom, with all that we have. All that we have. Zichrono lebracha, the Shvimmers. But that's the choice that we have. V'samachta b'chol hatov. To rejoice with all of the good that Hashem, your God, has given you. Right? B'kol, that's the key word, kol. Right? We say, Ezuhu Ashir hasameach b'chelko. Someone who is happy. A wealthy person is someone not satisfied. Happy with their portion. Chelko means chelek. What does chelek mean? Part. No one has it all. No one has it all. And often you see it's those who have the most who are often the unhappiest. Because they're chasing. Someone just gave me a very interesting book called Solve for Happy, written by a fellow who's the head of Google X. And he's saying that our default really is to be happy. Right? A child, an infant's happy. Their needs are met. They're not hungry. They're not dirty. They're happy. Right? We add on all of these other layers of stuff. We said, but unlike the iPhone, we can't just press the reset button and go back to our factory settings. Right? But just we have so much. The Bikurim is the Samachta B'chol Hatov. Rejoice with all the good that Hashem, God, has given to you. And if we don't, Tachat, it's all because you didn't rejoice. Tachat Asher Lo Avadat Hashem Lekach. You didn't serve Hashem your God. B'simcha uvetuv levav meirov kol. And as we said, and the Tochacha is hitting the nail on the head. That which you have will be taken away from you. Right? And the key to the Bikurim, the Tochacha, the key to Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, right? This Thursday night there is a panel at the JCC that I and Rabbi Spitz and Rabbi Steinberg are participating in, on Teshuvah and on the high holidays. Right? It's from 7 to 8:30 at the JCC. Anyone who wants to attend this Thursday night. Right? And one of the issues is preparing for Rosh Hashanah. And to me, preparing for Rosh Hashanah is really taking stock of what we have and how much we need to appreciate that. And to really get ourselves into the mindset of all the gifts that we have. And that's how we'll stand before God, with overflowing gratitude and appreciation and thanks and willingness to do that which He asks of us after He has given us just so much. So this is Ateni Tzavim, right? You're standing, next week's Parsha, you're standing before me today, right? That was, right? So we say that also refers to, not necessarily that it wasn't Rosh Hashanah, but that refers to the idea of Rosh Hashanah, when we're all standing before Hashem. So these are the Parshiot that we read. So this Parsha had in it the Tochacha, right? The terrible, terrible repercussions. And we always read it before Rosh Hashanah. And the Gemara says, let the year and its difficulties come to an end. And may that be the case for us. And let the forthcoming year be a tremendous year of bracha and happiness and simcha and success and growth for us and for all of Am Yisrael.